15 verses. I'm going to expand just a little bit on the scripture. Instead of beginning with 11, I'm going to begin with verse 9. It says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends. Because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father's will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands, so that you may love one another." And all of God's people said, Amen. Just again, I want to remind everybody that our sermon series that we are hearing is based on the Bible study that we are currently doing by Max Lucado. It's called Jesus, the God Who Knows Your Name. And today I think that the title is so pertinent to our message today. We have a God who knows our name. A God who cares enough about us that he knows each and every one of us on a personal basis. I have a collection of both old and current photographs, some of which I have on my phone. Some are old printed versions when you actually had to put film in a camera and then take it to the local drugstore to have it developed. I'm sure there's a couple of you old enough to remember that.
Yeah, not bad.
I have pictures of Donna, my family. I have pictures of me and my buddy Vince from, many years ago when I had hair. Older photos yet of high schoolers that I ran around with, and colleagues from days past. And in those photos, we're smiling. They are, I am, just enjoying one another's company. And why? Because we were friends. Our author of this Bible study shares with us a story about a picture in his office. A sketch, actually. A sketch of Jesus. And it's quite the drawing. Jesus has his head cocked back, his eyes sparkling, mouth wide open, not in a smile or a giggle or even a chuckle, but a full-blown roar of laughter. So much so that it's like he's having trouble trying to catch his breath, and I can just see his belly jumping up and down as he laughs and roars with his friends. A laughter that causes tears to come to his eyes, streaming down his face, and for some of us it might even make for an urgent call to the restroom. the laughter is so deep. A real belly roll. That's the kind of laughter that I imagine here. Kind of laughter that you have among friends, the kind of laughter that we can have with Jesus. You know, last week we talked a lot about how we tend to focus upon the divinity of Christ, and we miss some of the very common everyday things and the human side of what Christ was and is. We take Jesus sometimes too seriously, and this sketch can help break that thought for us. Can help break down that barrier, that image that we see Jesus as only a divine presence, and we miss the friend side of Jesus. The friend that can laugh with you to the point of tears. The friend who's present when you're in real tears. The friend who can console, and the friend who can make you giggle. The friend you want to be around. The friend that you invite to your parties. Jesus. We find it easy to see God as teacher, father, maybe angry sometimes, mighty, weeping, as in the story of Lazarus. But how often do you think of Jesus as laughing? Aside from when I get my ideas and I know my plans, and then he laughs at those. How often do we picture Christ with this kind of laughter? Jesus is a friend. And a friend we can laugh with. Our author also suggests that Jesus might be a bit of a party animal. The life of the party. The one who everyone wants to invite. Jesus went to a wedding in Cana. Remember the story? Did something, turning water into wine kind of stuff. Why did he go? Why did Jesus go to that wedding in Cana? In John chapter 2, it first tells us he was invited. Someone considered him friend enough to invite him to their wedding. They wanted his presence. John chapter 2, verse 2 says Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. He got an invitation in the mail, had to turn in his response card. He was asked to come. And man, were they glad he was there. You know, when the wine was gone and had run out, Jesus made sure they had more wine. And he didn't do this to prove that he was the Messiah or God, or he didn't do this as a result of saying, look at me, I've got a miracle to share with you. He did it as a favor to a friend, so that the family wouldn't be embarrassed that they didn't have enough wine for the party. He did it as a favor, as a request made by his mother, so that her friends wouldn't be embarrassed at the party. Jesus was a friend. And there's another reason why Jesus was at that party. He was fully human. We've talked about that. as well as fully divine. I think he wanted to have fun. He wanted to have fun with his friends and have a little party. Think of this. He enjoyed people so much, and people enjoyed calling him friend so much, that on a hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, 5,000 men showed up with their families to hear him talk. 5,000 families. Because they called him friend and wanted to hear what he had to say. And by the way, when they got hungry, he fed them. All 5,000. And he didn't do this just once, but on a second occasion, 4,000 gathered because they wanted to hear their friend speak, and he fed them as well. All with a couple loaves of bread and a few fish. Jesus was friends with people, and is a friend with us today. People then were drawn to him because they liked him. Today we are drawn to Jesus as well. But we forget that he's a friend, a regular guy as well as a God. The God. The one and only. The way, the truth, and the life. You know, we think Jesus was friends only with the Jews and the Gentiles, and because he had all these struggles and battles with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. But he really wanted to be friends with them as well. And he was a friend to them as well, because he was calling out their behavior when it was wrong, not out of anger, but instead out of love. And if you recall the story, one of those Pharisees came to see him in the night. This guy by the name of Nicodemus. And Jesus was friend to him as well. And so much so that Nicodemus became friends with Christ, and Nicodemus is the one who provided the money for the incense, the myrrh and frankincense that was used at his funeral. Friends. Even a Pharisee was a friend with Christ. Jesus also loved to party with bad guys. You know, if you have a bad boy syndrome, you're drawn to those bad boys. Jesus was a guy who was drawn to them as well. You think about the foul-mouthed fishermen that we've spoke about. Jesus was a friend to them. Think about the thief on the cross next to him. Jesus was a friend to him. We often forget Judas of Iscariot. Jesus was a friend to the man who betrayed him. And when he brought Judas in as a disciple, Jesus knew Judas was a thief. But he was a friend. He was a friend to sinners and to tax collectors. I want to read a story from our Bible study that kind of puts this whole thought into a bit of perspective for us. Talking about a party now that Jesus attended, a party of tax collectors that he attended at Matthew's house. Says, what do you suppose led to that party? Let's try to imagine. I could see Matthew going back and forth to his office, packing up after he's called to be Christ's disciple. He removes the Hustler of the Year award from the wall and the boxes of shady business school certificates. His co-workers start asking questions. What's up, Matt? Headed on a cruise? Hey, Matthew, the missus kick you out? Matthew doesn't know what to say. He mumbles something about a job change. But he reaches the door, he pauses, holding his box full of office supplies, and looks back. They're giving him hangdog looks. Kind of sad, puzzled. He feels a lump in his throat. Oh, these guys aren't much, Matthew thinks. Parents warn their kids about this sort. Salty language, Mardi Gras morals. They keep the phone number of the bookie on speed dial. The bouncer at the gentleman's club sends them birthday cards. But a friend is a friend. Yet what can he do? Invite them to meet Jesus? Yeah, right. They, like preachers, the way sheep like butchers. Let me repeat that. Matthew's friends like sheep, like preachers, the way sheep like butchers. Tell them to tune in to the religious channel on TV. Then they think cotton candy hair is a requirement for following Christ. What if he sneaked the little Torah tracts into their desks? No, they don't read. So not knowing what else to do, Matthew shrugs his shoulders and gives them a nod. These stupid allergies, he says, rubbing one eye. Later on, Matthew meets up with Jesus at a dinner and shares his problem. My buddies, you know, the guys at the office, the fellows at the bar, and Jesus asks him, what about them? And Matthew replies, well, we kind of run together, you know. I'm going to miss them. Take Josh, for instance. Sorry, Josh, I should have changed the name. As slick as a can of Quaker steak. But he visits orphans on Sunday. And Bruno at the gym can crunch you like a roach, but I never had a better friend. He posted bail for me 3 times. Jesus motions for him to go on. What's the problem? Well, I'm going to miss those guys. I mean, I've got nothing against Peter, James, and John, Jesus, but there's Sunday morning and I'm Saturday night. I've got my own circle, you know. And Jesus starts to smile, and he shakes his head. Matthew, you think I came to quarantine you? Following me doesn't mean forgetting your friends. Just the opposite. I want to meet them. Matthew's eyes brighten. He says, are you sure, Jesus? Half of them are on parole. Josh hasn't worn socks since his bar mitzvah. I'm not talking about a religious service, Jesus replies. Let me ask you, what do you like to do, bowl? Play Monopoly? How's your golf game? Matthew says, you ought to see me cook. I get on steaks like a whale on Jonah. And so Jesus ends up at Matthew's house. A classy, split level with a view of the Sea of Galilee. Parked out front is everything from BMWs to Harleys to limos. And the crowd inside tells you this is anything but a clergy conference. image of Jesus as a friend. A friend to the very people that we don't want to be around. A friend to the people who may not necessarily always show up in church on Sunday mornings. A friend to the people that society often says are no good. Stay away. Jesus parties with them. And why? Because Jesus loves every soul that walks this earth. And when he looks at an individual, he sees the soul inside that is worthy of salvation and of friendship. And Christ wants to be that friend. He wants to be a friend to the Jews, to the Gentiles, to the worthy, to the unworthy, to the healthy of spirit, and to the sick of spirit. Christ is a friend. Matthew had seedy friends, and Jesus wanted to be in their presence, wanted to become their friends, and I am personally thankful for that. But why would he do this? Why would Jesus want to be a friend? He wants to be a friend because he loves all of us. Regardless of our past, regardless of our present, Christ loves us. Jesus is not a friend, though, to excuse poor behavior. And he will call that out of love and friendship. Remember the woman at the well, married 5 times? Jesus says, go and sin no more. Truth and grace wrapped up in one. A true friend. He called out his disciples. When Peter fell short on faith when walking on the water, Jesus reached out, took his hand, and said, "Oh, ye of little faith." He called Peter out when Peter was challenging Christ and the fulfillment of Scriptures. "Get behind me, Satan." He loved Peter enough to call out poor behavior. And he loves each and every one of us enough to both love us, be a friend, and convict us of poor behavior, so that we have an opportunity to correct it. Jesus loves you that much. I think of the words again from John 14:3, and I've shared this several times recently, that he will come and take our hand, personally. A friend walking hand in hand with us through life. When we read John 15, again, it amazes me to think, verses 13, no one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And he goes on in verse 14 to say, you are my friends, if you do as I command. There's the truth. And the grace is, no matter what you've done, if you do what he commands, you are his friend. Truth and grace in a friendship. Jesus laid down his life for you and I because we are his friends. We need to focus more on the real Jesus, on the complete Jesus, the full Jesus, that includes the human side of Jesus that we can relate to. We need to focus on the friend Jesus, who was willing to sacrifice his life for ours. There is no greater love. Thank